What if control erodes further, though? What if the last person who knew how to stop something, or the last person with the password, dies or quits? I think we could easily picture a bot-controlled corporation, because corporations are already termed unnatural persons in the eyes of the law. They have all of the rights of a human being: privacy, freedom of speech, with the big difference being that they don't ever die. And that's very similar to a bot. So what if steps were made by corporations to give civil rights of some type to bots? For instance, that you don't have the right to delete them from your system. And that sounds a lot like DRM, actually, come to think of it. Because you got to ask yourself, who controls the data on your system and in these systems? That's a perfect example of humans ceding some of their rights to bots. So where does that leave us? I don't think it's this bad. Although I have painted a very dreary picture. If I count through it, I said that bots' environment is exploding in size. Their power over us is increasing vastly. Humanity's value is plummeting. And let's see, we're losing control of civilization. But I do think there's hope, because one thing humans do supremely well is adapt. We're incredibly flexible and adaptable creatures. Now, bots are inflexible without us. And even primitive human societies can innovate tremendously when necessary. And in nature, flexibility typically wins. So if we were to start over, what would we do differently? Well, this is the long now foundation, so let's think big. What if we built a new internet, just for starters? But this time, built it to benefit the greatest number of people possible. And what if we tried to make it support our preferred way of government, that is democracy? Because I think in the past, we've built systems as a tool for society. What if we made systems, IT systems, the fabric of society itself, a reflection of it? Could we build an operating system for democracy? Could we hard code our values into the DNA of civilization? I think we might be able to. And I think a way that we could start this time would be by building an encrypted network, a dark net, to begin with, that is not open automatically to all comers. And I think we'd have at least a couple of qualifications for entry into this encrypted network. One would be that you are verifiably human. And not to be too exclusive, I think we could let some bots in because they are useful when they behave. But of course, we would have to know the source code of these bots. So any bots that we would let into this proposed system would have to be whitelisted. That is, a critical mass of humans would need to review the code and agree that they are benign. And of course, any misbehaving bot must be able to be banished by collective human action. That is, a critical mass of humans voting them out. And this would have to be baked into this network from the very start. And I think we would also have to have a secure cryptographic hash algorithm to make sure that the source code of these bots doesn't change. And once again, if it does, bots are automatically expunged. But that still leaves the question of how to differentiate bots from humans, which is what started this, after all. Because they are a potentially aggressive organism. And I think the answer to that is literally all around us. I think it's three-dimensional space. Because if we project this new network on top of reality, it's very difficult for a bot to pretend to be us. This has been called augmented reality, and it's been kicked around for a few years. But I think self-defense against bots, us developing a new sensory perception, is a an ideal reason, a driving reason to implement such a system. Because that's what we need to do, is develop new senses. Now, in my book, Demon, such a system is implemented. It's called D-Space in that. And by projecting data onto three-dimensional space and seeing bots and other organisms coming at you when they want to change your data, that really simulates what's happening. Because anytime your data changes, it is potentially a threat to you. But the human mind is wired to see it graphically. And if we created an internet much like this, we might better be able to defend ourselves against these things. Now, we would need heads-up glasses or a haptic display, but we wouldn't need to wear them all the time. I think we could get a buzz on our smartphone that tells us something's changed, and we could put on our spectacles and look into the next dimension. I think we could do that. But the key is that in this type of network, you would be in control of your data. Anytime it changed, you would know it. Because in the modern world already, you are your data. If your data goes bad, you're in a heap of trouble. So this really is self-defense. And I think this darknet would operate in parallel to the existing internet. And I think people would opt into it to get control of their data, if nothing else. And especially, I think they would be willing to join a network where human action, collective action, could banish bots. And I think this is already familiar to us, because we're already doing this in games, carrying callouts over our head, projecting data onto three-dimensional space. When I said that games, online games, are a larval stage of something more serious in our social relationships and in our relationship with bots, this is what I meant. I think we're practicing for something in online games. Social networks, wikis, online games. We're exploring new realities. We're already working on this. As a matter of fact, we already have the coordinate system worked out. It's called GPS. So we've built big pieces of the infrastructure of this type of network. But how would a new network like this, a dark net, work person to person? I think it would look very much like an online game. Walking with a call out to those on the network, carrying your name, your reputation, your experience, your skills, so that people can recognize each other. Now, people who are privacy advocates might look at this and say, oh my God, this is a nightmare. But I would point out that your data is probably being sold to somebody just this moment. And at least in this new network, you would know anytime someone touched your data. You would know it instantly. You would receive your ratings in such a system by your past interactions with other network members. As you dealt with them, they would rate you, and you would rate them. And you would classify their skills, and this would start to develop an open source database on what this civilization can do collectively. It would keep its collective records as part of the system. And it's good to have reputation in context, especially if you're trying to buy a car or something like this. Like the undercoding. I wonder if it would encourage like-minded people to hang out together, to get better ratings. And I'm not sure that that's bad. I haven't decided yet. But it might make for some interesting changes in society. But what about bots pretending to be human? Because, of course, that's one of the reasons we've designed this. It would be very difficult for a bot to masquerade as human in such a system. Because remember, illicit bots, bots that do not have their code approved by a critical mass of people, would be banished instantly, which would leave bots masquerading as humans as the only way to get around. But of course, a call-out hovering over nothing is a dead giveaway, and hiring people to hold your bot for you doesn't scale very well. It's very expensive. So this has a sort of built-in natural protection against that. And I do think that this type of social arrangement has even greater implications, actually. Because bots, although they are a threat, we've dealt with threatening organisms before. We've developed symbiotic relationships with threatening organisms before. And the very disinterestedness of bots in us is their great usefulness. Because impartiality is a cornerstone of blind justice. And blind justice is a cornerstone of democracy. So one could picture that open source bots, that is, bots that have their source code reviewed by everybody and available to all, could be supremely useful and impartial about human affairs.